In this video, you will examine the ideas behind the Declaration of Independence. So open to your BaneTube notes section, take good notes, and remember to see me with any questions you may have. So hopefully we recognize this map by this town and this town, Lexington and Concord, the first shots of the Revolutionary War. The British march to Lexington, where they are met by colonists. There is a battle, and the colonists are defeated. So the British move on to Concord, looking for weapons, where they also engage the colonists, and the British are defeated and make their way all the way back to Boston. After Lexington and Concord, the Revolutionary War is taking place. Now, the people that fought in the Revolutionary War, patriots, who were colonists dedicated to independence, and they formed the Continental Army, as well as small groups of fighters known as militia or militiamen. They were fighting against the British, who were soldiers fighting for Great Britain against the colonists. But then there was a group called Loyalists, and they were colonists against independence and loyal to the king. They were also known as Tories. So there were many colonists living in the colonies who thought they should not have independence from the British Crown, and they fought on the side of the British. They were called Loyalists. And of course we know across the ocean was King George III. Now, the colonists decide that they are going to fight for their independence from the king, and they need to let the king know somehow that that's what they want. They want their independence, and this is why they want it. So, the Founding Fathers, Ben Franklin, John Adams, and some others, talked to this man and asked him to write the Declaration of Independence. Of course, he was Thomas Jefferson, the main author of the Declaration of Independence. This is a pretty good shot of what it looks like. It's only one page, incredibly well written, very elegant, and very specific to the point. We talked about that in class a little bit. The Declaration of Independence. This is what it looks like in the National Archives Museum in Washington, D.C. Under glass. In this case, the actual Declaration of Independence. Now, the preamble, or the beginning part of the Declaration, is really quite amazing. And here's what it says. When in the course of human events it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and of nature's God entitle them, a decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impel them to the separation. Really an amazing sentence, and see if you can figure out what Jefferson was trying to say. And if you need a little help, you can look at the copy of the Declaration that was in everyday language, the one that I gave you in class, and that will kind of translate this. But see if you can figure out what he's trying to say just by reading this. Now, in the Declaration, Jefferson cited or wrote down and identified some wrong things that King George did to the colonists, ways that the king treated them unfairly. And I'm going to give you some of those. Jefferson writes in the Declaration that the king imposed taxes without our consent. And of course, we know that's called taxation without representation. So this was one thing that the king did that the colonists considered to be unfair. And Jefferson wanted that in the Declaration. He also said that the king quartered large bodies of troops among us, the Quartering Act. Jefferson also said that the king cut off trade with other parts of the world when the port of Boston was closed, and there were many more, but these are three big ones. Three ways that the king treated the colonists unfairly, and you should be familiar with these. If you look at the actual Declaration of Independence, there are many more wrongs that Jefferson identifies. Now, the next part of the Declaration is equally as powerful as the preamble, and it says, "We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness." Can you guess what inalienable might mean, based on the context? Inalienable rights are rights that were given to the colonists by their Creator, God, and that cannot be taken away. Inalienable rights cannot be taken away by anyone. And among these, the three major ones identified in the Declaration were the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Also, that governments are instituted among men, deriving their just power from consent of the governed. Now, this phrase right here, consent of the governed, is very important, and our entire democracy is based on this phrase, consent of the governed. It very simply means that the government can't do anything without the permission of the people first. That the governments aren't the ones with the power. It is the people, or the governed, that have the power. Consent of the governed, very important. If you're not sure on what that means, please see me. And also that it is the people's right to throw off absolute despotism or unlimited power. What this means is that the Declaration says if the people are unhappy with their government, they have the right to get rid of their government. And this happens all the time when citizens vote and decide they don't like the government. So they change the government. They change our leaders. And these are all truths that are self-evident. They're perfectly clear, that are written in the Declaration. Now that phrase, all men are created equal, I have a question mark next to that because that raises some questions. 1776, Jefferson said that all men were created equal. But this didn't apply to women. Women's rights weren't addressed in the Declaration at all. Abigail Adams, who was the wife of John Adams, the second president, and one of the founding fathers, tried to convince her husband John, but just didn't get any results. There was nothing in the Declaration about women. And how about African Americans? Their rights also were not addressed at all in the Declaration. Slavery was still legal in all 13 states. The message it sent about the practice of slavery was inconsistent. In other words, the Declaration says that all men are created equal, but for some reason that didn't apply to African Americans. So the message in the Declaration of Independence about slavery, it's inconsistent. It doesn't really make sense. It says one thing, but then the colonists practiced another. And how about the Native Americans? They were completely disregarded. There's no mention of them in the Declaration. And American colonists continue to settle on Indian land. So this phrase, all men created equal, it's a very effective, very powerful phrase, but when you look at what the situation was actually like in the 1700s, it didn't really apply. So after viewing this video, there are some questions that you should be able to answer, and you'll be seeing these questions again. So please make sure that you have the answers. Which document formally announced the colony's break with Great Britain? Who was the main author of the Declaration, and what year was it written? How was slavery addressed in the Declaration of Independence? What are some of the wrongs committed by the king that were cited in the Declaration? What are the 3 inalienable rights in the Declaration? And what 4 words in the Declaration clarify that the people are the source of the government's authority or power? So you can look at this as kind of a mini quiz. Make sure that you can answer all of these, and if you need to go back into the video and find the answers, then please do that. Next, we'll be getting into the actual battles of the Revolutionary War. So please see me with any questions or if you need any clarification.